Yo, what up YouTube? My name is Mike. I go by DJ AXCESS, and in today's episode of 2 Cents, I'm giving you my opinions on the Pioneer DJM S9 and the Rane 72. Alright everybody, welcome back to my channel where I conduct tutorials, perform routines, and discuss DJ related topics. If you find this video helpful or interesting, hit that like button so we can build a better DJ community, and please consider subscribing if you want to learn the art and business of mixing music alongside me. Now for my opinions on the Pioneer S9 and the Rane 72. Alright party people, on the left hand side you're looking at the Pioneer DJM S9, and on the right hand side you're looking at the Rane 72. The Pioneer DJM S9 has been my go-to practice mixer for about 3 months. Big shout out to Beat Squad Entertainment for providing that. And then the Rane 72 has been my go-to performance mixer since it came out in March of 2018. So I've had a lot of hours on both mixers, and I feel like I can give a solid review. A little bit about my mixer background. I started off with a Behringer, quickly moved to an NS7, got the Rane TTM 57 SL, moved over to the Pioneer DJM 900 SRT, and then now I'm using the Rane 72, and I've also used the Pioneer DDJ SX, which is a controller, built-in mixer, and platters. If you're interested in the type of DJing I do, you can check out some of my performance videos, which I'll link up top. Okay, one of the first things I wanted to talk about were the dedicated output controls. So both mixers have XLR, RCA, and quarter-inch outs. The Rane 72 has dedicated output controls for all three, whereas the DJM S9 has dedicated output controls for the master level as well as the booth. And master is typically your XLR and your booth is quarter-inch. So the Pioneer S9 has the RCAs and the XR outputs tied to the master volume, whereas the Rane 72 has dedicated output controls for all three. So that was one of the main reasons why I like the Rane 72, because if you know anything about my other videos, I'm always recording my sets, so having output controls on all three is really nice, depending on what I'm running to the main speakers and what I'm running to my recorder and then maybe my booth monitor. Another thing that helped me choose the Rane 72 is the Rane 72 has 2 mic inputs, whereas the Pioneer DJM S9 only has 1. I do a lot of weddings with my Rane 72, and having a lapel mic and a wireless handheld has been really helpful for me, whereas I could only use 1 if I went with the DJM S9 as my go-to mixer. Alright, going over the performance pads on the 2 mixers, the Rane 72's pads are slightly larger, and the S9's pads are slightly harder, meaning they don't give as much when you hit them. I do not notice a difference between the two when I'm performing. They both feel great. I will say that the Machine MK3 probably has the best pads for the style that I like, and I do like how on the Rane 72 you are able to put different pad modes on different channels. So if you were to use the S9, both channels will flip over when it comes to the performance pads, which is not the case on the Rane 72. Another win for the Rane 72 was the built-in USB hub. In the back it has 2 USB ports. Typically these will be used up by the Rane 12s, but you can actually use them for anything. And the DJM S9, if you were to use the Rane 12s with them, you would have to use a USB hub from your laptop rather than being built into the mixer. So slight win there. The next major difference between the 2 mixers are the screen. The S9 has 2 screens, one for the effects and the parameters that you're doing for that, and then one for the pad to let you know which pad mode you're using. On the Rane 72, a little bit more in depth and much larger screen. You can see the waveforms and match them up that way if you choose. I find it's not as accurate as if you were to use the laptop. It's not a lag time issue, it's just a little bit harder to see. I would really like to see a white line going across the 2 mixers, kind of like they have on the middle screen. But I mix by ear most of the time, but if I do have to check, I will look at my laptop over the screen. Your effects can be triggered here. I don't use this screen that much. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but you can have that. And then you also have a menu screen on your Rane 72 as well, and you can set some of the mixer settings as well as the cut and adjust for the faders, and I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So as far as the screens go, the Rane 72 definitely beats out the S9. I would assume that Pioneer is going to be coming out with something here soon to kind of mimic that large screen on the Rane 72. Another big win for the Rane 72 was the addition of what's called transport mode, and that is on the 5th button if you select it twice or use shift and press the 5th button within the performance pads. These pads start lighting up and you can actually mix without anything attached to the Rane 72. So you have your pitch bend controls here to speed and slow up the song. You can do the actual pitch adjust over here as well, and then you have your play and your cue or stop buttons over here, and then you can turn on and off your key lock as well. So this has been a major help. When I do my ceremonies for weddings, I will just bring out my Rane 72, plug in my 2 microphones, and then just play the music from my laptop using the transport mode. That way I don't have to set up my turntables. Once the ceremony's done, I'll just pack up the mixer and the laptop and move it into my main setup. So that's been a major help. And if you're just doing like a backyard barbecue or something, it might be nice to not have to set up everything and just be able to DJ within transport mode. It's really hard to say which crossfader I like better. I will say that the S9 feels a little bit better to me because I think it's a little bit lighter as far as the crossfade, and I'm not talking about the tension. Having the tension controls on the front is a huge win for the S9. In order to change the tension on the Rane 72, you actually have to lift the faceplate and adjust those with a screwdriver, much more difficult. However, you are able to adjust the tension on the up faders. I think the up faders on the S9 feel great, but if you didn't like those, the Rane 72 might be for you, as you can adjust those as well. Having the cut and adjust on the screen in the mixer on the 72 is a big help, but it's not super different because you can just change that on the S9 within your Serato programming. You cannot do it without having Serato attached though, which is kind of not great. That being said, both faders feel exactly how I want them to now. I do find I scratch a little bit better on the S9 just because of the weight of the 72 compared to the weight of the fader on the S9. As far as effects customization, you have a lot more options on the Rane 72. If I hit this effects button, you can see a number of the effects that I use. Clean echo out, the breaker, which works as my sensor button, and then transform. So typically when I have like some little kid who's wanting to scratch, I'll throw the transform option on, let them move the record back and forth, and kind of makes a cool moment for them. Otherwise, I really don't use it. And then the main effect that I do use is their reverb. And I have a high pass filter set on that at 200 hertz, so it's not competing with the bass, and that's really, really nice. I'm not sure if that's available on the S9, although that's about the only thing that I like about the Rane when it comes to effects. Everything else is better on the S9. So whereas I really only have one effect that's post fader, which means if I were to drop the channel faders, I would still get the effect. I'd still hear those. I had 6 of those dedicated on the S9, in addition to 6 Serato effects, which are pre-fader. With the Rane 72, I get a bunch of effects, and you can actually layer them, which is great, but they are all pre-fader. If someone could correct me and find out a way to make them post-fader, I would probably change my opinion, but right now I think those effects are all pre-fader, so I hardly use them at all except in very specific circumstances. Like I said, the breaker for censoring, and transform if I want to let somebody scratch on my turntables. As far as effects usability, again, the S9 kills it. Both sets have great paddles. I mean, if I had to give an edge, I'd say the 72 has better paddles, just being steel compared to plastic, but these things are going to hold up great. I know a bunch of DJs who slam on them and have not broken them. Just having these other options here. I do miss having the noise oscillator that I used to have on my 900 SRT. So if they could bring that back, that would be dope. But I find myself using reverb, echo, and that's it. But that's still kind of better than only using the reverb on the on the 72. So I think having 6 dedicated post fader effects has been really dope, whereas I can change the effect, but I only get to have the option of 1 at a time on the 72. Hope that makes sense. As far as layout, you can pretty much see that they both make a lot of sense. Where Rane decided to put everything kind of in a row here, Pioneer decided to kind of go in a 2-tiered setup, and I like both. They both make sense. The only thing I really didn't like, or didn't make sense to me at first about the S9, was the shift button. So it's about right here, and I feel like a lot of the things that you're going to be doing with the shift are all here. So it's a lot more of a stretch to kind of do that, rather than the shift button on the Rane 72, which is right here. And now I have, it's not as much of a stretch, and I can do what I need to do. With regards to queuing, the Rane 72 is way better than the S9, and actually the DJM 900 SRT's queuing is probably the best. I have 2 buttons here to queue. I can press them both to hear both, and then I have 1 knob which controls whether I'm hearing the main output or the cue output. I would really like that to have that on a button, but no dice. And over here I have that same kind of cue master, but I also have this fader here. I'd much rather have that on buttons like it is on the Rane 72 and the 900 SRT. So I'm not sure why they changed that. And then obviously the cue levels here. As far as layout, doesn't really matter to me, but having this on a crossfader just really didn't make sense to me at all. As far as looping, I thought this was going to be a bigger deal at first. I really wanted a dedicated looping section like you have on the 900 SRT right over here, excuse me, on the S9 right up here. You have the dedicated looping function, so I can hit 4-beat loop and then half or double it depending on which type of loop I need. I actually have to hit an additional button to get into loop mode on the Rane 72. I thought that was going to be a big deal. It's not. I got used to it really fast. The only thing I really didn't like it was when I needed to hit the loop button and the cue button at the same time. But because I have the Rane 12s, those allow you to put the cues on there. So I'll often put the cue on the Rane 12, the auto loop on the Rane 72, and then hit both at the same time, and I get the effect that I need. On the S9, it's a lot easier. Boom, 4-beat loop is there. I can leave it on hot cue for the performance pads, and I can take care of whatever I need to like that. This is something a little bit more unsure about. I don't think the Rane 72 has a dedicated instant doubles button, which is the button you would press if you need the same track on both sides really quick, and it actually moves the track into the same time point as it was when you hit the instant doubles button. So if you have the record playing, they will play the same songs at the same time, and you can flip back and forth depending on which side you need the track on. With the S9, there's a dedicated button. You just simply hold it. On the 72, you have the these scroll and load buttons here, but I find that if I press them, then it could just load a track on my in my library rather than making an instant double. So if someone could kind of clarify that to me, that'd be great. But currently, I would give the S9 a win just for having a dedicated instant doubles button. In conclusion, both are fantastic mixers. If I was only a battle DJ, I'd probably go with the S9, but because I do a lot of mobile and club and other events as well, the 72 is a better fit for me. But again, I love having the S9 as my practice setup, and probably has a better fader and definitely has better effects. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them and maybe even demo something for you in the next video. All right, YouTube, thank you for watching. Once again, if you found this video helpful or interesting, hit that like button so other DJs can find it as well. Consider subscribing for more tutorials, performances, and discussions. And make sure you check out one of the videos on the next screen as well. Until next time, peace and practice.